Question here, we've got a function d. D stands for water depth in a harbour on a particular day can be modelled by this equation. So d is the water depth. Let's just go and highlight that. D is the water depth in metres, and it looks like t is the time, right, in hours since midnight. Okay, so t equals 0 is midnight, t equals 1 is 1 a.m, t equals 2 is 2 a.m, and so on, until maybe t equals 12 is lunchtime, noon. All right, so we've got to get a sense of what the actual variables measure. So we're going to put this straight into our TI-Nspire, but of course, instead of d, we're going to have like an f1 of x. Okay, my pens. And instead of t, we're going to put x. Okay, so let's go straight to the TI-Nspire. Here it is. And we will go doc, insert a new graph. And mine's going to be f2 because I've already got some equations in f1, right? So f2, remember that. And it is 2.5 times by cosine. So we go to the trig button here. We want cosine, and in bracket it is 30. Now the question has a little degrees there. Can you see? 30 degrees. But we don't put units within an equation, right? So this is to tell you that the actual equation, the graph is being measured, the angles are measured in degrees, which is helpful. And look, we've got degrees on our calculator. So that's 30 times by t. But look, t, I made the mistake that we make, should be times by x. And then it is plus 5. And we press enter. Now you can see that the graph is here, but it's not, obviously we can't see all of it. Now the good news is that the question that we're doing tells us what scale to use. So if we go down to the graph itself, can you see? It's got 0 to 24 on the x and 0 up to 10 on the y. So we can go back to our TI-Nspire. Handy is if we didn't know what scale to choose, we can press Ctrl-T. And look, we can toggle on a table of values, and then we can go 0. We get a sense of what the y values are and how high and how low we might plot. Okay, so Ctrl-T toggles a table on, and if you do Ctrl-T again, we can toggle the table off. But now I'm going to go change the scale on the calculator itself. You can do this in two ways. You can actually just go and click on the numbers themselves if you're quite good with the TI-Nspire calculator. So that's not too bad. But maybe easier is to go through the menu and then window zoom and window settings. Okay, so I'm going to go -1 to 24 hours, and I'm going to go from, I think, 0, and I will go up to 11. And that's quite nice, right? We've got all the calculator, we've got all the graph on there. If you click in blank space, a little hand should appear, and you can actually just move the axes around just a little bit. That might help you. Okay, so we've got the graph. Let's go back to the questions. And the questions say this. Okay, it says to actually draw the graph in the grid below. So this is where a table of values will come in handy. So if I put these side by side, and what I'm going to do is I am going to go now to Ctrl-T, the table of values, and now I've actually got a little dot to dot. So basically you can go ahead and try and do a bit of plotting. 0 with 7.5. So when I go to the graph here, 0 with 7.5, we would plot a point here. All right, so you can see how the table of values is going to be really helpful. And then we've got 1 with 7.2, 2 with 6.25, 3 with 5. Okay, so you can go ahead and plot all of those. I know there was a 3 with a 5. Okay, so once you've taken your time to plot that out, then on paper with a smooth curve, you will get it looking something like this. Okay, so obviously the table of values is really helpful because you can kind of do a dot-to-dot plot, and just take your time, go all the way up. Maybe you plot it every 3, right? Because if you plotted it every single number, it might take too long. So let me go up to 6. 6 is 2.5. So if I go back to here, 6 is 2.5. Okay, and you would keep going. All right, and 9 is 5 again, and 12 is 7.5. So it looks like I'm toggling between maximum and minimum here. Now, a good way of finding what the maximum and minimum is, of course, is go menu, analyze graph, and we're looking for the maximum, you click a point before and a point after, and there you go. At 12 hours after midnight, so that's kind of lunchtime, the depth of the water is 7.5, and if you go menu, analyze graph, minimum, let's go and have a look at this one, click, there you go. After 6 hours after midnight, 6 a.m., the water depth is at 2.5. And we know that cosine is a repeating graph, and so the minimum here will also be at 2.5 high. And the pattern will be 6 hours, 12 hours, this will be 18 hours here, and then 24 hours at the end. And we can always resize this just a little bit. If I just grab this and make it a bit smaller, watch if we put all the maximums on, menu, analyze graph, maximum, and menu, analyze graph, minimum. You can see the pattern, right? It's every 6 hours, right? From 12 hours, from maximum to maximum, and from minimum to minimum, it's got a 12 hours time period as well. So it does a full cycle of the graph in 12 hours, right? And then a full cycle of the graph again in 12 hours. So let's go and see what the question asks us. So A is draw the graph. All right, well, I think we're pretty good at this now, because we kind of know that it goes in a cycle of 12 hours. Let me just try and get my pen working. Oop, my nib's just fallen off, so that won't be very good. Okay, my nib's now broken. That's okay. So find the lowest and highest depths of the water in the harbour and the times when they occur. So we can do that straight from the TI-Nspire. The lowest depths happen at 6 a.m. and then this is 18 hours after midnight. This is 6 p.m. and the highest depth is 12 noon and then back again at midnight. Okay, this is midnight here, this is midnight here. And then the final question is, a large yacht has a draft. Now this is a depth of the boat of 3 meters. Decide whether the yacht will be able to enter the harbour at 5 p.m. Okay, so we go back to our graph. Now 5 p.m. is 17 hours, right? 17 hours after midnight. So 5 p.m. 17 hours after midnight. So we can do it a number of ways. Control T. We need to go to 5 p.m., which is 17 hours. Well, at 17 hours, the water depth is 2.83 meters, and it says the ship has a water depth. It needs 3 meters, so it's not going to enter the harbour. Another way you can do it is to Control T, turn this off. We can go menu. We can actually plot another graph, and this time we can plot a depth of 3 meters, and then we can find the time at which the water level in red dips below a height of 3 meters. All right, so let's go menu, analyze graph. We can go to intersection and we click before and after, and look, we can say at 16.77 hours. So that's actually just between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. So yeah, once we hit 5 p.m, right, we're kind of down here and the water level is too low for our ship to be able to fit in. All right, so a number of things. Make sure the calculator's in degrees here. You need to change the scale so you can see what's going on. We did menu, analyze the graph, and from here we did intersection for that last question, and we looked at the maximum and minimum. Okay, other things we can do on here, this is F2, right? So this is F2. If I go doc, insert a calculator page, now watch this. If I put F2 of 0, this is the height of the water at 0 hours after midnight. And we can do F2 of 17, so that was 5 p.m. And look, the water depth is 2.83 meters. That's quite a nice little trick, isn't it? That we know that at 5 p.m. or 17 hours after midnight, the water depth is 2.83 meters. The boat needs 3 meters to be able to get into the harbour, so the boat cannot make it.